walk us through what happened with the cow mutilation, and if you can bring up the picture.
You want me to do that now?
Yeah, while he tells us. For those watching, we have a pretty gruesome picture to show you, and for those listening, we're showing you what looks like what is a cow's face that has been cut open, exposing the muscles just below the skin, the jaw, and what our caller has told me earlier, the tongue has also been removed.
I can't even look at this.
And the cut is a rather clean cut. So caller, please walk us through what is going on with this.
Okay, let me just go ahead and first start off. About 4 weeks before this took place, I was looking over at night, about 9 o'clock at night, the field this happened in, and I noticed about 4 orbs flying. They were probably 300 to 400 yards away, and they were flying very erratically, but in formation, moving very quickly. Something a drone couldn't do. I've seen orbs before, but these were pretty in my face, I guess you could say. And I was watching for maybe, a minute and a half, and then a fifth one came in and joined the group. I didn't have my cell phone, so I was going to run back in and grab my cell phone. I told my wife to come on out, and she had looked out the window and saw them. But by the time I got my cell phone and went back out on the porch for 30 seconds, they're gone. So I just want to preference this with that, because now going fast forward, it was about 9:30 in the morning. I was just going out checking the cattle. I saw the one laying on the side, and as I got up there, I saw what you just showed in the picture.
How long do you think the cow was there? And when you found the cow, were there animals around it? Like, sometimes you find a dead animal. You got a vulture, or you got coyotes pecking away. Was any of that stuff that happening?
Well, that particular pasture had probably close to 500 head of cattle on it. And the night prior, it was not dead because I checked the night prior, and I was out there in the morning, and it was laying over. As far as animals messing with it, they hadn't yet. In fact, it was kind of interesting because nothing really got on it for about 3 days. But I didn't see any signs of any coyotes at all.
So first of all, have you ever seen anything like this before? Having dealt with cattle?
Never. And I'm on a ranch. The owner of the ranch, he's got a couple places, and we're in North Texas. He runs about, I guess, a couple thousand head, and he's been doing it for over 10 years. He's never seen it.
What's your first thought when you see that cow?
Well, due to some of my experiences and stuff, when I called him about it, I said, well, maybe it was aliens. I was kind of half joking about it. I've heard about, this kind of mutilation of extraterrestrial or whatever it might have been, but I never really bought into it. But, in the back of my mind, I'm sitting there going, is it possible? I've been trying to figure out what animal could have done this, but I don't know. Did you show all the pictures of the rear end and the stomach and stuff?
I didn't pull up those yet. No, I thought those might be too much for some people. The back end is rough. Can you explain that though? Like what was going on there? Because it looked like something I couldn't really tell. I initially thought it was like a vulture, which is what vultures do. Unfortunately, this is gross, but that's what they do. They eat out the back end first when they find a corpse.
Well, the back end, nothing was being eaten out of it. It was being pushed out. And, we thought maybe it got hit by lightning, but we've had cattle hit by lightning. It never does this. And of course, it would not have done that to the head. These were incisions, especially in the belly. It had an incision. In the back end, it had one. And of course, you can see what happened to the head and what happened to the tongue.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you had vets come out and inspect the carcass?
And I can't say it didn't happen, but we got dogs on the property even. We're very rural. I just can't imagine anybody doing that.
Right. And did you say that you had vets come out to look at the cow?
No, we never really inspected the cow. we ended up moving it, but we had the photos, and there was three. We contacted 3 veterinarians that we used. We had horses and stuff too, and all of them. The first one said, "That's interesting." He said, "I've only seen that one other time in West Texas." The other 2 vets, which today showed them the photos, they actually said it's aliens.
Did he say that the other one he saw had similar incisions?
Say it again?
Did the vet say that the other cow mutilation he saw had similar incisions like this one had on its face?
Didn't ask him that. I think
Mhm.
he might have maybe even seen something like online or something in West Texas. But the 2 vets today said they'd never seen that before. They had no idea.
So,
And
oh yeah, go on, please.
I was just going to say one more thing. When I first found it, I kind of wrote it off. I said, well, I've had other things happen that seemed a little bit crazier, but I just said, whatever. I just went on with the day, and then a couple of days later, I got to thinking, wait a minute, I saw those orbs over that same field about a month ago, and so I got online, so I looked up cattle mutilation, and I Googled it, and almost the exact same picture came up, and that's when I just kind of went, "Whoa!" I just kind of said, "Well, I need to look into this now."
Hmm. Yeah, and what else did you see? You saw very similar pictures?
Yeah, I mean, you can get online and Google it. You'll have a couple come up, and it seems like most of them have the same tear on the face,
Yeah,
and they're not even from this area.
the tear is very clean.
Is that what you Googled? Cow mutilation or
Yeah, just put cattle mutilation.
cattle mutilation?
Yeah, because there's stories that are rather recent of cows being, I mean, mutilated isn't even the best term, because when I think of mutilation, I think of a mess. But this is very sterile. And
Like
other
Dexter,
Right,
it's like draining its
right.
blood.
Real quick, I can't hear you hardly at all.
Interesting. Maybe I'll tell Alex to say stuff like, ask him if the cow mutilations actually.
You want to come to my mic?
Yeah, no, it's all right. Ask if it smelled differently.
Did it smell differently? Like, did it smell dead or rotted?
The only thing I can really say that I experienced when I walked up to it, I had a very eerie feeling. I felt some kind of presence, but it could have been just what I was seeing. I was just kind of a little creeped out. Of course, I'm not bothered by that look, but I just felt something, and that's the only thing I really noticed. I didn't smell it. There's a lot of smells out there. There's a bunch of cattle around and that kind of thing.
That's wild.
Did you say this happened more than once, or is it
No,
just this one time?
just the one time.
What did he see online?
Never happened ever. I've never seen it.
Hold on. What?
What did the internet say about orbs?
Oh yeah. So what did the internet say about orbs when you looked that up?
I didn't look up the orbs. I just
didn't.
put in cattle mutilation, extraterrestrial or something like that.
Have you seen orbs in the area before, or just?
Or cattle mutilation. I'm sorry, cattle mutilation.
Have you seen orbs before besides the time you suspect it happened around the cattle mutilation?
I've seen orbs before, but not out here. I haven't.
About what?
When I was in Montana, I saw quite a few of them.
Orbs in Montana. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I've seen them in Montana. I actually have seen some down. I've seen them on Galveston Island too, but I'm not sure what you want to hear exactly.
If you've seen other things like that, UFOs or orbs.
So you've seen UFOs and orbs in Montana and in Texas, right? Are they very similar every time?
Well, for me, it started in 2000. I'm sorry for this. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Just ignore it.
They don't want us talking about it.
About 2019 through March, and March through 2020, and it was almost like these things were following me. I mean, I just saw them all the time, and I didn't know what they were, but some of them were quite large. But I have a good video of one of them. It was over the surf on the beach at night.
How did it move?
How did it move? Uh-oh.
We've got a pretty bad connection.
Yeah.
Are you there?
We really do.
Yeah. Can you hear me at all?
But yeah,
How did the orbs move? Like, do they just hover, or were they fast, or?
okay. You're talking about the ones that were over the field of the cattle?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, the four that I saw at first, they would just stay stationary. They just start moving real quick. It's something that if anybody was in it, they would not live because they're moving hundreds of yards in a split of a second, and they just go into these almost like formations. And then, like I said, I was only watching for like a minute and a half, and a fifth one came in. The fifth one came in. I went, "Whoa!" That's when I ran inside to get my phone to try to video it.
Mm-hmm.
That's no, that's interesting because there's a lot of theories out there. For those listening, I'm sure you've heard before that people believe in out west in Texas, aliens or something has been visiting. I mean, there's myth about chupacabras, there's lots of different things, but people for years have been speculating that something is visiting these cows. Like I was saying about the mutilations and how mutilation makes me think of the word mess. A lot of these stories lately that I've been reading are cows that have been dissected, and the crime scene, if you want to call it that, has no blood. From what I'm seeing in these pictures, it doesn't look like there's blood either. Did you see, if you can hear me, did you see if there was like blood splatter in the area of the cattle?
Well, there was no blood at all, but there was maybe one explanation for that. I think it rained a little bit that night, but I don't think it was a wash to all of it.
Right.
But there's no blood.
Yeah, that part's weird.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering about the smell being different, just because I grew up on a farm. I've unfortunately had to bury a lot of animals, and you know the smell of the normal death of an animal. But I'm curious if something strange killed this thing, mutilated this thing, if it had any weird leftover smell. People talk about different beings in the forest leaving smells like a Sasquatch. Not saying that's what's happening here, but sometimes something leaves behind a different odor, and the death that seems unnatural also has an unnatural smell. But you didn't smell anything, I guess.
Yeah, my smell's not the best in the world, especially after COVID. I lost my smell. I only got back about 50% of it, so I don't
Yeah.
smell real well. And of course, there was a lot of smells out there. I was amongst a lot of other cattle, and there's
Right.
stuff on the ground and that sort of thing. But I will say this: there was no signs of any struggle, and we really don't know how the cow died. I mean, it wasn't an unhealthy cow.
Hmm.
It seemed pretty healthy. It just seemed like it just fell over and died. Sometimes that will happen, but when they get older, they get sick, they usually will struggle a little bit, but it wasn't kicking on the ground or anything. It just fell over.
I shared the image that we shared earlier of the cattle with a friend of mine who's a rancher elsewhere, and he's got a lot of theories, but he said something that I've also considered as well. I'm curious what you think. That there's people out there like satanic cults that mess around with animals. Does that do anything for you or ring a bell?
Well, you're saying a cult, you're saying?
Yeah, people have experienced that and they've attributed it. I don't think there's any evidence of that, but people theorize that if it's not extraterrestrial, if it's not an animal, which I don't know how an animal could do this, that there's people out there in the woods doing some ritualistic violence on cows.
Well, they could be, but I don't think it happened in this situation. And we're a very rural area. They
Right.
would have had to come a ways into the ranch. I mean, the dogs would have heard them. I mean, they just can't see anybody doing that.
Yeah,
People do weird things.
the cut
man.
is really weird though. It's just how clean it is and how the teeth are exposed. The tongue missing is also pretty weird. When you've seen vultures eat a corpse, they're not so meticulous.
What if it was like an experiment? Like, like a veterinarian experiment or something. I don't
That
know.
those are
I'm just
actually
throwing out
other
ideas.
those are other theories out there when you look up cow mutilation stuff, that people are going out there and messing with cows for their own, experiments. For sure. Like, it's not a cult, it's just someone
Yeah.
out there being like, I'm going to learn something. But I don't know what you
Have you
get from
But then
that.
why would you just leave it there?
Have you showed the full picture yet of the whole cow laying on the ground?
I haven't yet. No, I had to upload it for sharing purposes. It's a little more complicated, unfortunately, than sharing from my email. But we can put them up with the YouTube channel after this goes live, and I'll let people see it. And I wanted to make sure everything was appropriate, because it is gruesome, but I think it's worth people seeing just like how weird it is, because it's not that rare that this has been happening, and the FBI has been investigating stuff like this. And I'm surprised you haven't had the FBI show up yet asking about it. Or maybe you will now. Sorry.
Well, maybe so. Yeah, the cow is now in a different field right now, but it's been eating on pretty good by now.
Yeah. And how long did you say you thought the cow was out there dead like that?
Well, I don't know how long it was dead, but I know I checked that field before dark around 5 o'clock, and then I was out there by 8:30 in the morning, so it didn't have much of a window.
Man, that's wild. Well, moving on from the cow mutilations, I know you've had, we talked in email and stuff, and you had a few other stories, and we have time for one more if you want to share another story. I think our audience would love to hear them if you have time.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I want to do here. Shane, I'd like to do that. We don't have this audio so bad it's hard to even focus.
That's fair. That's fair. Look, let's do this then. I really want to have you back, because the stories that we talked about are as interesting as this cow stuff. So we'll have you back. We'll have the audio fixed, and we'll go through some more of these stories. So I appreciate you taking the time to share this one with us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me on. Maybe we can get some answers in the chat, or maybe answers in the comments, and maybe people have another opinion on what could have happened through these photos if you can post them somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I just have the 3 photos, and if somebody has some ideas on how this could have happened, or a different animal that did it, I'm open for any suggestions. But I have no clue.
We will post the pictures on the YouTube page, and we'll ask the audience to comment, and I'm sure they will on this episode as well. So, all right. Well, sir, thank you so much for your time, and we will talk soon.
Okay, be blessed.
You too. It's crazy. The cow stuff is crazy.
It's nauseating.
He does have really good stories. I really want to have him on. That connection stunk. So apologies for that.
It's just Discord, and if people have bad connections with their phones, I mean, there's really nothing we can do on our end.
But we'll figure that out, because he's got some pretty good ones I want to get through. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas about the cow stuff, I'd love to hear, or just other theories on the cow stuff.
Some people are saying, like, if it's vultures were involved, the eyes would be the first to go.
Yeah.
You can't clean bone like that.
Right.
If it was an animal killing, the parts would have been eaten.
Agreed. Like I said, having grown up on a farm, I've seen vultures operate.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
It looks intentional, whatever is happening.
Yeah. And I've also seen coyotes eat away, It's not like that. I've looked at that photo all week. I'm like, I don't understand. But it does line up with other stories I've had. I mean, yeah. My buddy was saying maybe even MS-13, because of being down south like that, Texas. But who knows, But there have been so many in the recent years that the FBI is investigating them. At some point, I was thinking about going out and just writing about some and checking it out, because this has fascinated me for a long time. It's very strange. Whether it's a person doing weird stuff, it's weird. If it's some being visiting, obviously weird. If it's the government doing stuff, who knows? Because it also, when you were talking about experiments, it's like a newer, weirder animal version of the, I think we talked about it recently, about the body snatchers. They call them the resurrection men, resurrectionists, who would go out and rob graves to do autopsies, because autopsies were outlawed.
But if you're going to do something like that, why would you leave it there?
Also, yeah, and if that was the case, like, you just get a cow. Why are you doing some random dude's cow? That's why I lean, if it's a person, I lean more towards ritualistic, just weird stuff. Because if it's like kids messing around, I can't imagine kids
No.
doing that.
It seems
Unless it's a young Dexter.
a young dog.
being
Oh, yeah.
taught,
How to
being taught
kill.
like, here, come on, young Dexter, we'll bring you out to the cattle field and
I
use
mean, I
this
guess
knife.
if it's he says he looked it up and it's happening a lot.
Oh,
Even though
yeah.
This was like the first of it.
Oh yeah, and there's weird ones, but I could say so. He said there was rain and it could have got rid of the blood, but there's a lot of other stories where they've found them and there's just no blood.
Yeah.
Anyone say anything else?
The edges of the wound is perfect, not on an animal.
Right.
They always at most call the sheriff, and if he comes out and says the dangest thing I've ever seen.
This is the dangest thing I've ever seen.
Okay, yeah. Laser cut.
For sure. Yeah, imagine that. Someone out there with a homemade laser.
Ew.
And they're like, we got to test this laser out. Let's go find a cow. Laser is
Or the
interesting.
orb laser.
Or the orb lasers. Yeah. We got to get Ashton Forbes on this.
What? I don't know. It's gross.
Talk about orbs. That's crazy. All right. Well, that was fun.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
We'll have him back. And
Yeah.
we got a lot of submissions today
Yes.
for callers. So I'm pretty
Good.
stoked on that. Thank you to Tim for posting about it. And we're going to have a lot of calls. I'd love to do a caller-only episode sometime.
That'd be
Like
great.
just have people call in with better connection. So I'm working on that. If you guys want to call in, hit me up at ShaneCashman@scanner.com, SCNR.com. Just shoot me your name, your story. We'll talk about it. We'll get you on the show. We'll have you call in, figure it all out. You can find me at Shane Cashman everywhere online. Please look up Joe and his book. Like I said, all his info is in the description below. Really, really important, interesting stuff that we're going to be talking about a lot more of, especially since those people are very close to our current administration. So yeah, what about you?
Oh, you can find me at I am Alex Ayala on X, and just like our show, subscribe to our show, and keep watching our show, and call into our show.
Call into our show, share our show. Yeah, we love it.
Yeah.
I met a few people out in the world.
Yeah.
It's very, very fun and cool that watch it.
You meet people in the world these days?
I don't know if it's the real world, but supposedly I'm outside and it's the sunlight. But yeah, at one point I heard someone listening to us in a car.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it me?
No.
Just listening back.
Imagine. Yeah. Yeah. It was the Owen Benjamin episode. It was pretty awesome.
Cool.
But yeah, guys, send me your stories. We'd love to talk to you, and we will see you next week. Later.